there's a live webinar where anyone can jump on, and we're going to be showcasing the plants people that are out there helping to look after. G'day everyone. As April draws to a close, I'm really excited to say that we're heading into May, which is Botanic Gardens Month, culminating on the final Sunday with Botanic Gardens Day. Here at our Botanic Gardens, in this case, I'm at Mount Annan here in Western Sydney. The work being done by our horticulturists, botanists and scientists to look after and research our plants is critical. Plants provide us with fresh air, fresh water, food, and of course, the sheer therapeutic benefits of being around these beautiful structures that provide therapy for us. During these times where we've got the increased threat of fire, flood, and drought, and of course, pathogens and disease, our landscapes need this valuable research, and the work being done by Botanic Gardens to look after our local landscapes and our national landscape is absolutely priceless. So across the month, there's some great things going on. First of all, every Thursday night, there's a live webinar where anyone can jump on, and we're going to be showcasing the plants people that are out there helping to look after our landscapes. Each night there'll be at least 3 people on across the 4 webinars. You can also join the Botanic Gardens Plant Challenge. It was a great success last year, and all we need you to do is put together a little video with your favourite plant or your favourite tree and tell us why you love it. We want to see your passion. Jump on to the website, BGANZ.org.au, to see what other events might be going on at your local Botanic Garden or Botanic Gardens in your region. On the day, on the last Sunday of the month, I'll be celebrating Botanic Gardens Day up at the Mackay Regional Botanic Gardens. Tag me in your activity. Tag me in whatever you're up to around plants and our Botanic Gardens, and I'll see you Thursday nights during May.
Nice numpty end to that video. I meant to top and tail it, but anyway, that's good. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second of our 4 BGANZ May monthly webinars. It's wonderful to be back. I can't believe that Thursday has rocked around again so quickly. This week, I'm joining you from Randwick, which is here on the Gadigal and Bidjigal lands of the Eora Nation, and I acknowledge elders past and present. And I ask you all to jump on, as I do in all my live webinars, jump on and let us know which country and which town or city you are joining us from. Throughout the conversation, I'll be sharing comments from all of you viewers, so don't hesitate to let us know your thoughts as the discussions unfold, and also at the end to have some questions for our guest speakers. So feel free to jump on. Good evening, David Ting. Lovely to see you. Greetings from McGregor, Carroll Marshall, down on Ngunnawal country in the ACT. Lovely to have you here. David Ting, welcome, mate. Good evening. Glenn, Alan Steedman, welcome to you too. And Jeanette, who's always wanted to see that Ian Potter gallery. Well, tonight you get a chance to see it, and particularly hear about how close it is to it being open. And there's going to be a fantastic presentation, which I won't waste any more time on. Oh, the other thing, there's going to be a prize at the end, donated by sponsors of BGANZ Sea Salt. So I'll be picking a question from the 2 presentations, And this could be a minor detail, but I'll be hoping that you're listening carefully. And of course, whoever gets the comment in first, and there was certainly a cascade of comments come in last week when we asked the question, whoever gets a comment in first gets the prize. So good luck to everyone on that. We got John from Bunurong country down in Cranbourne, Dee from Durrag out here south of Sydney. Laverne's joined us from out in Dimboola on Watchabullock country. Good on you, Laverne. Lake Connie Schneider from Lake Cathy. Wow, we got people in Melbourne, people joining us from all over the place. Sharon Ryan from the Middle Mount Isaac region. I'll be up in the Isaac regions shortly. Can't wait for the Wetlands Festival. Ngunnawal country, more people from Canberra. Serena in Queensland. Wollongong. Wow, North Carolina. Wow, fantastic. Well, thanks everyone. I'll keep popping up your locations as we get underway. So the topic, as you know, for tonight is a look behind the scenes at the Ian Potter Foundation Conservatory. I was there when there was some fundraising going on at the Australian National Botanic Garden back a couple of years ago now, and this was there. The drawings were there and they were ready to go, and the funding came through. And now we're literally talking about months, a matter of months, and it's going to be open. And as a part of that, we have two of the people behind the scenes working away. We have Helen McHugh, who's the manager of visitor services down there at the Botanic Gardens. Helen's built a career out of engaging students and visitors to discover and learn at several national cultural institutions. And when you think about it, that's exactly what the conservatory is all about, presenting the collections that the gardens have, but they can't always be on show. And this is an absolute showcase of a structure to be able to do that. And Helen's experience in providing managing visitor services is where it's all about, because it's all about learning. It's about bringing that experience, that storytelling to the conservatory and to the gardens. Helen also works side by side with Heather Sweet, and Heather's a nursery and horticulturalist down at the gardens. She grew up on a farm in the Mallee on the Eyre Peninsula, and as a teenager, she moved to the tall forests of the Upper Yarra Valley. That's a big change. Finishing her schooling on the plains of the Murrumbidgee irrigation area. She's worked as a horticulturist at the Gardens Nursery, wait for it, for 24 years, and been cultivating a wide range of Australian native plants. So we've got two wonderful speakers about to join us. So first up, we have Helen, and I'm just going to bring Helen in. Helen, how are you going? Let me see. So, Helen, can you hear me? Oh, here we go. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Helen, big welcome to the second of our BGANZ webinars. How are you?
Fabulous. You can see that I'm in the lovely warm greenhouses behind the scenes where our plants are waiting to go into the Ian Potter National Conservatory. So it's lush, green and warm here.
Fantastic. I love the backdrop. It's a little more exciting than my faux artwork here in Randwick. So yeah, that's kind of that intrigue and that storytelling that is really a massive part of what you do.
Absolutely. And we're really excited about opening the Ian Potter National Conservatory and taking people to see a new part of the gardens and plants that they might never see in the wild because they're from such remote places.
Wow. Well, I'm really looking forward to your presentation. So if you're ready, I'll put the slides up and away you go.
Fabulous. So I'd like to take you into the behind the scenes of how we've come up with the Ian Potter National Conservatory. So let's take you through. Oh, so we just need to go to the other presentation.
Oops, that's it. Yep.
Perfect. So the Australian National Botanic Gardens grows Australian native plants, but we're in Canberra. And Canberra, as you know, is a bit limited. And so it means that there are limits on what plants we can grow. In our plans were always the idea that we wanted to expand the collection to our display collection for the public to show tropical Australian plants as well. And so there was an amazing design competition, and I'm showing you the winning picture right now. This idea of a floating cube conservatory, a mysterious blank wall that would engage and surprise people as they came, as our spectacular place to display our tropical Australian native plants. So CHROFI, the winning architects, came up with this notion, and then we've had to translate it to make sure that it works for our plants and it works for our sites. So looking a bit more Australian now, this is the sense of this beautiful conservatory that has been designed. We've got a blank wall and a towering height. It's 17 meters tall, the main gallery. So we have space for our canopy trees that you'd see in a rainforest to go into that space. But you're not quite sure as a visitor when you get to this point what's going to be inside. So let me take you in. Oh, that's very interesting. So apologies, guys. Let me take you in. Inside, we're missing a photograph, but that's okay. Inside, we've got towering heights of plants. We've got hanging chandeliers. We've got very few signs upstairs. We just experience the warmth. It hits you in the face. You feel suddenly like you've stepped into a tropical rainforest, and you have a chance to be immersed in some of the sounds of the rainforest as well. Then, as we walk downstairs, we see a slightly different side, because down here we get into some of our stories, and it's here that we actually get to explore some of the unique plants and the ways that we are working with these unique plants at the Australian National Botanic Gardens to understand, to research, and to conserve these plants. So downstairs, we will have what we're calling a plant library, where we'll change over and move through different plant stories. And I might actually show you one of them a little bit later about the red land crabs, or the robber crabs at Christmas Island. So these stories will be featuring plants, talking about our conservation programs, featuring a lot of the knowledge that we have and we're building, and continually changing to make sure that the plants are in the best condition possible. So what are we actually doing? We started construction, and this is the reality. We have these beautiful images, and as we started construction, building this beautiful conservatory, we had, of course, the wettest year on record. Can you see that lovely, great, big hole there full of water? And it has slowed down our construction somewhat. But our walls are going up, the concrete bases are going up, and we've started to lay the concrete of the pathways. We've got the rocks in place, and there's some really important features that you're seeing here. So this conservatory is not just a magnificent design. It's actually got a lot of very clever sort of sustainability and environmental elements built in. It's got a thermal mass from all of this concrete that will help to stabilize the temperature to reduce the costs of heating our conservatory in the cold Canberra climate. It's got insulation. Can you see all that lovely blue insulation going in to help us to maintain the temperature and have a higher energy efficiency? And all that glass surface, we actually can put blinds, thermal blinds around at night and control them to help us to preserve the heat inside, again, being more and more energy efficient. So when you look from the south, you see a blind box. This is our way of approaching. When you view from the north, all the sunlight streams in. The sunlight was carefully modelled and the design was carefully modelled, working with specialists and the building was positioned to just get exactly the right angle to best optimise the light. So this is going to be a magnificent experience for our visitors, and we are really excited to share a variety of experiences in the space, including getting people in at night when it's lit up and beautiful, bringing school students in through the day and having their own interaction and discovery in the space. And it also will be available for people to hire for their own special events. So I wanted to just share one thing with you, Costa, if you wouldn't mind, coming back to me.
Yeah, sure.
So Costa, did you see what I'm holding in my hand?
It looks like a crustacean to me, some sort of
Does
crab.
it look like a crustacean?
Yabby.
It is a bit like a yabby. Hang on, let me put it in front of myself so we can see it better. So one of the stories that we're going to tell in the conservatory is about Christmas Island and some of the plants from Christmas Island. And so we've actually had little models of the red crabs made to go into the conservatory. And this is one of my favourite little bits to bring alive that story. So not only do we tell the story of plants, but we tell the story of the whole ecosystems, because these little red rubber crabs are crucial for the Christmas Island ecosystem. They are the biggest land crabs that exist, and they spend all their adult life on land, foraging on the forest floor. You can see this one picked up a little bit of greenery that it's eating, and they have to go back to the ocean to lay their eggs and to mate. So that's the only part of their life cycle that's at the ocean. The rest of the time is spent on the forest floor picking over all of the little seedlings and eating and digging over the soil. So we tell this story and contrast some of the different ecosystems that you'll see from Christmas Island with these beautiful land crabs dominating the ecosystem and being one of the big ecosystem influences, to Kakadu, where we have quite a substantially different kind of plant than you'd expect from a tropical rainforest, to our classic World Heritage rainforests that you see in tropical Queensland. So it's going to be a spectacular experience, and I'm really very much looking forward to bringing people in and exciting them about the mystery and magic of all of these plants.
I love exactly this comment from Laverne. I love the storytelling aspects of this, that you have this stage on which to really showcase like such an amazing ecological thread that ties in the plants plus the ocean and the wetlands and back to the land and the forest as well. It's spectacular.
It is spectacular, and we are also very lucky to have access to to collect plants through our connections as being part of Parks Australia, to collect plants from Uluru and from places like Christmas Island that we wouldn't necessarily get to otherwise easily, and to be able to bring them into Canberra where public can come in and see them. Plants that are hard to access, plants that are very unique, plants that might never have been shown in public before or are rare in cultivation. And we do this for two reasons. So I'm here for the visitor. I'm here to tell those stories, but the Gardens has a big story about conservation and research as well. And the conservatory is contributing majorly to the conservation and understanding research of many of these species. We gain a lot of understanding by having them here and accessible in how we can preserve and grow and cultivate them. So thank you, Costa.
Oh, well, I I did like this comment earlier from someone, and I thought the same thing. People might have to get married again to put on a function like that slide that you have up on the screen there. Like that is sort of some of the skyscapes that you're capable of getting in Canberra on a clear night, and up where you are in that part of town. What a sight, and just the design details that you explained, Helen, were incredible. Like the way it's facing north, it's got its back turned to the south, it's insulated to get that temperature that you need to showcase plants. Like from Christmas Island to Canberra, they may be the same letter C, but temperature-wise, I mean, they're worlds apart. And I'm always fascinated by what your horticulturists manage to do and grow under the extreme climate down there in Canberra.
Yeah, the skill set and knowledge in our horticulture team is astounding. And we also draw heavily on the National Seed Bank, who is on site to help us also crack the code for some of the germination of some of these plants as well, which Heather might get into a little bit more with her presentation when she comes.
I like this comment here. You know, that's an incredible piece of architecture, but I think the second sentence here is what nationally is such a special thing, that here we are investing as a nation, and particularly in the nation's capital, in a structure like this for plants. Like, this is a really big thing for horticulture in the country.
Absolutely. And I should mention that the Ian Potter Foundation donation of $1.9 million, this has made it possible for us to be able to do this conservatory, and the federal government making commitments as well. So it's amazing for us to be able to showcase our plants and bring them out from behind the scenes where they are at the moment to where everybody can see them.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say, that detail, that there's so many incredible plants. And I mean, I was at Royal Botanic Gardens in Sydney today because we were doing a story on ferns, and John actually said was that the Angiopteris evicta in the background there of what you're looking at. And I was actually doing a story, I did a bit of a piece on that, the king fern. But I think it was summed up here by Laverne's comment that isn't it amazing how something so functional can be so beautiful as well, and the fact that all of these plants that normally are held, tightly under careful conditions back of house are now going to be put on they now have a stage to be showcased by the horticulturists in a purposely built structure. And it ties into what John said, that the glasshouse is a game changer regarding representing our national flora.
It's going to be magic and dramatic and an experience.
It sure is. And someone said here, I'm coming back as a plant. So we're going to have people get married again. just in the short space of a 20-minute presentation, you've inspired people to get married again, and you've inspired others to come back as a plant. But there's a great comment, extremely exciting for the conservation alone, but making them accessible to the public and as a higher space. Like, what a wonderful inclusiveness that it isn't just this, stay off the grass, do not enter, distance, keep away. Like, it's actually interactive. And I can't help but think what a treat that is for the horts and for all the staff to be able to take that next step of saying to people, look at what we look after.
Absolutely. And we are going to have it open every day from 10 to 4 and with trained volunteers inside. who will be able to answer all of your horticulture, well, some of your horticulture questions. There's always more to know. Our horticulture staff are excited to work in this space.
Karen said she's already planning a 50th anniversary there next year. Carol, she's going to be one of the first ones in. Tim, I'll put that one up there, Tim, a statement structure with conservation intent. It really is. Wow, thanks for all the comments, everyone. It's wonderful to see, Helen, just how emotive this has been, just looking at the images, and you're down there looking at this structure come out of the ground.
It's exciting, and we're actually taking photos as it grows every 6 minutes. We're taking a photo, so we'll have a lovely time lapse of the conservatory growing out of a mud hole up and soaring up into the sky. We'll have photos as the plants are craned in, so the top of the conservatory actually can come off. So we can actually crane in our huge trees that are waiting for us up in Queensland, and plant them in and remove them if we need to as well. So it's very exciting. We'll get a time lapse of the whole process right up to opening day later this year.
Well, Helen, thank you for a wonderful presentation, and we're going to head over to Heather now and then get you back in for some Q&A from the audience. So thank you so much. It's been fantastic. The images are just mind-blowing.
Thank you, Costa.
Okay, here we go. So now we're going to bring Heather in. So Heather is, as I mentioned earlier, Heather's one of the horticulturists that's been working at the Australian National Botanic Gardens for 24 years, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the perspective from the horticulture centre, from the actual people that have been looking after the plants. So Heather, good evening.
Oh, good evening, Costa.
It's great to see you, and as we mentioned before, is that an Angiopteris behind you? Is that the king fern?
That is an Angiopteris behind me. Yes, that's right.
Yes, I was doing a little bit of filming and talking about just how they actually have hydraulics that keep those massive, like this inbuilt hydraulic mechanism to keep that massive frond up that can reach up to 7 meters.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much water they can store. Yeah.
Wow, it's super exciting, and it's really wonderful to be able to go from Helen's perspective in that she's like laying the groundwork to share with the community that this is coming, and to prepare all of those communications and all of that very important media aspect and the storytelling. But then you as the story holders now have this incredible stage. Tell us, do you want to go straight into your presentation?
Yeah. Look, why not? Yeah, and I really like that you're calling it a stage. It definitely is a stage.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, I'll put that up there.
Okie dokes.
And you're ready to roll.
Okay. So moving inside the conservatory, this is the space that we'll be growing the plants in. You can see you will enter through that really low roofed space on the bottom right of the slide. You will emerge into the big, tall chamber and follow the path out. And the path is cantilevered over that lower level, and where you'll be able to see a water feature. So you can just see how the spaces inside kind of work. That main exhibit space, so the really big, tall chamber, we want to give people the feeling of wet tropics, Queensland wet tropics rainforest. So you can see on the slide, the Queensland wet tropics contain 21% of Australia's cycads, 65% of Australia's ferns, 30% of Australia's orchid species. So we're going to be able to display some of those families of plants in keeping with that wet tropics. We want that to have a real towering plant feel with vines and epiphytes. Currently, we've got 5 separate greenhouses that we have different environments in. We can move our plants around in those so that they've got the best growing conditions. And all of those plants will then, some of those plants will come into the conservatory, but our current greenhouses do present some challenges. And one of the main challenges is that they're only 3 metres high, and we've got to try and fill a 17-metre high space in that main chamber. So obviously we can't grow plants bigger than 3 metres high, so we've decided to purchase some plants that are being grown in ground up in Queensland. So from a tree farm called Emaho Trees. These are the plants that will be, they'll be root pruned, bagged up with hessian and then freighted down to Canberra. And it's going to be a real precision operation. They're going to be craned in through the open roof before it's sealed up. But so we've got to do that when the weather's fine, so we can't do it when there's any possibility of frost in Canberra. So it gives us a pretty small window, but it's going to be a pretty exciting day when those guys go in. So we've got the golden pender and the river cherry. They're both not particularly exciting plants for a horticulturist. They're grown as street trees or landscaping plants up in Queensland, but they will be pretty tough, and they are about 6 metres high, so they will give us that canopy that we need. So we'll also have some palms, 2 tropical palms that will help form the canopy in the conservatory. So we've got the fan palm on the left there, Licuala ramsii, which is a very slow grower. So I think the plant on the right is actually the one that is ours and that will be planted in our conservatory. And then on the right, we've got black palms, which are very fast growing. So they'll fill that canopy space pretty quickly. The licualas are going to take years before we can look up and see those beautiful fan palm silhouettes above our heads. But you've got to start somewhere, I suppose. Okay, so now we get to our king fern. So this is our Angiopteris vector. This has been in our collection for a very long time. It's been grown from spore that was collected in Carnarvon Gorge in 1973. So it's been around for a long time. And while it's not tall, it will take up a huge amount of space in the conservatory. So its spread will be at least 5 metres.
1973, like that's that's a serious amount of time that like people have spent a career, you know, keeping an eye on that and nurturing it and then handing the baton on, and now it's going to find a place in that structure. That's really,
yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
That's spine-chilling, really, that you just shared that story.
It's older than most of our horticulturists.
That puts it in perspective. It really does.
Yeah, no, it's great. So this is the planting plan that we are working to. So, because fitting all of those plants into our conservatory has been quite a challenge, actually. So the red circles are the root balls of the plants. The surrounding black lines are, you know, the current canopy sizes. And you can see, I think, if you start down on the bottom right-hand side and the path goes over to the middle on the left, and then it goes up to the top on the right. So it's like a triangle-shaped path. So when we're trying to fit these plants in, we've got to take into account the size of the root balls, the size of the canopies, where the paths are, the size of the beds. Obviously, we don't want those canopies to brush up against the walls, and we still need to allow air circulation and sunlight to come through for some plants. So there's a lot of thought that goes into planning this planting plan anyway. So we've actually had a bit of fun with this. We marked it out on our eucalyptus lawn, and we all got to choose a plant and stand where we were going. I'm an Angiopteris, so I'm a Syzygia. So we do have a bit of fun when we're doing this planning. Okay, so rainforest canopies also have a huge diversity of epiphytic plants or epiphytes. Now, epiphytes are plants that grow on other plants using them for support. So they're not parasites, they're purely using them for support. One of the ways that we're going to display epiphytes in the conservatory is with our living chandeliers. And this is landscape architect speak for stainless steel hanging tubes. So what we've done, we've got these stainless steel hanging tubes, which we've filled with different media. So really coarse, free draining media, usually chunks of cork or chunks of tree fern. And then we attach little pieces of the plants, and their roots grow onto those, onto that media. And we'll be able to hoist these up into the canopy using a winch. Now, the plants that we've chosen are plants that we think will do reasonably well in the harsh conditions that we will get high up in the conservatory. Because high up in the conservatory, the temperature will be higher and the plants will be subject to a lot of harsh sunlight. So what we've got here on the left, we have Decidia nummularia. There's also a Decidia ovata behind that, but it's a bit tricky to see. In the middle, we've got a Gonophleboium subauriculatum, a beautiful arching fern. And on the right, I've got, I think that's actually the Gonophleboium when we established it. So yeah, they're all growing well, and we're also experimenting with other plants. So we've got some rhododendrons and some phalaenopsis that we've put on our living chandeliers too. They probably won't be hoisted into the canopy. They need a little bit more care and attention and a bit more shade. Okay, so there's also going to be a space for wall displays on one of the concrete walls in the main chamber. We've been experimenting with a few different ideas. One of the things that we've been focused on is that we want to do displays that are just a little bit different to what you would see in most places. So we've tried out a few different things. Here on the left, we've deconstructed and then reconstructed some teak boxes with Nepenthes mirabilis, so the pitcher plants. They're growing really well. We've hung them on the wall now, and they're getting a whole lot bigger, and hopefully those ones will actually go into the conservatory. On the right, we've got some horizontal chandeliers with Gonophleboium subauriculatum, which just has a really tough fern with those lovely weeping, arching fronds. And there will be some splashes of colour in the conservatory. It's not going to be just green. So we've got Tapinochylis ananaceae on the left. So that's a torch ginger. And does anyone know what family that's in? No. I just had to say that, Costa. It's family Costaceae. Then we've got, in the middle, we've got a Melastonema affine, very widespread tropical plant, but quite beautiful. And on the right, the native rhododendron, so from northeast Queensland. It grows really well from cuttings. It can grow as a shrub or as an epiphyte. Another way of bringing colour and some different leaf shapes into the conservatory is by using our deciduous perennials. So these plants won't be planted in the conservatory because they need a dry season. So the picture here we've got is the native turmeric on the right, so Curcuma australasica. Looks absolutely fantastic in flower, but on the left you can see it's not so fantastic when it's dying down. And then moving downstairs in the conservatory, we really want to show that not all tropical plants come from rainforests. So we want to show plants from some of the seasonally dry or drier environments. So this is a shot from the Ubia lookout. You can see some of the different greens that we'll be showing downstairs in the conservatory. I think Helen earlier talked about the idea of plant libraries. So downstairs in the conservatory, the northeast wall will have some in-ground plantings. The northwest wall will be a water feature, and then the internal walls will have shelving, which we call library space. So this came about because the landscape architects were having a look through our nursery and they were fascinated by the writing on our pots and the numbers on the tags, things that we in Botanic Gardens take for granted when we look after our scientific collections. But they said, look, let's share that with people and try and explain the kind of scientific work that Botanic Gardens do. So the libraries are going to be a fantastic way of showcasing that work. So these are just some plants from Kakadu, so some of our scientific collections from Kakadu. On the left, we've got a beautiful Osbeckia. In the middle, Baronia grandisepala, which is quite beautiful. And on the right is my favourite Euphorbiaceae. Now, that plant is yet to be determined. It's there's a specimen over in the Australian National Herbarium waiting to be identified. I'd be very keen if someone can give me an ID on it tonight, but if not, no worries. Okay. Now, another plant that's you'll see in the libraries is the Kakadu hibiscus brennanii. Now, this plant has this beautiful, amazing grey-green, velvety grey-green foliage and bright pink buds, and opens to a slightly paler pink flower. It's a really fast grower. It's an endangered plant. The National Seed Bank has been collecting in Kakadu National Park, and so we actually have a scientific collection of seed in our seed bank which we can access, because this plant I think we've grown it from seed, and it's grown from seed to over 2 metres high in less than a year. So it's actually going to be something that we're going to have to put a lot of work into regularly repropagating so that we can keep fresh ones coming through the conservatory. Now there's a bit more grey-green foliage and pink flowers. Another thing we're going to display is Lithomertus species. So Kakadu has a wealth of Lithomertus species. We've only got 5 of them, and they have proved quite difficult to propagate in Canberra. We have some small windows of time that we can actually get them going. We've got to get them rooted in our propagation houses, but the key thing with these guys is that we've got to pot them up just before the weather turns warmer in Canberra. Otherwise, they just sulk. So that's one that we're working on, and hopefully as we find out more about these plants, we'll have some better displays in the conservatory. On the Christmas Island fern, or the Dale's waterfall fern, as people on Christmas Island call it, staff from the National Seed Bank and horticultural staff from the gardens have been to Christmas Island, where we collected spore from these plants, brought it back to Canberra, and nursery and seed bank staff have developed protocols for germinating and growing this plant from spore. So you can see the young plants on the left and some of the older plants on the right with our fantastic horticulturists, Caitlin and Carol. And this one will definitely be on display in the conservatory. Now, the freshwater mangrove from Christmas Island. So in the middle, you can see the mangrove seed. So mangrove seeds almost come off the tree growing. The freshwater, we call it the freshwater mangrove. Like most mangroves are coastal. This originally would have been coastal, but in Christmas Island now it's actually growing in a freshwater spring, which is about 40 metres above sea level. So the island has actually been uplifted. Fortunately, there was a freshwater spring where these mangroves were growing, so they've survived even at that altitude. So we grew them initially as normal pot plants. They weren't terribly happy with that. We had to install a pond inside our greenhouses, which they told us very quickly that was how they want to grow. Now, I've also got a bit of a strange pot here that we've constructed from aquarium rock with lots of holes so that the mangrove roots can go through. And the idea is that pot will eventually break up, but not before the mangrove is self-supporting. Now, we've also got some amazing carnivorous plants. So hopefully we'll be developing some carnivorous plant displays. So this Nepenthes has some amazing pictures, and it's also something that we've not had a lot of propagation success with over the years, but this year we've had successful cuttings, so we're all a bit happy about that. Now this is another of our endangered species. So this is the native moth orchid, Phalaenopsis rosenstromii. These plants have been grown from seed by a specialist orchid grower in Victoria. We're trialling displaying them in a variety of ways, but hopefully you will see them in the conservatory. And yeah, I suppose we're just really excited about getting some of these plants that have not been on display for a very long time back out there in the public space. So, and it's really taken years and years of work, and I think all of the horticulturists that have been at the gardens basically since its inception. You know, some of these plants have been around that long that will be in the conservatory, and all the support staff, the facilities maintenance guys who maintain our glass houses and keep the heat coming. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it anyway. So, thanks, Costa.
Heather, wow. I love Rebecca's comment there. You are plant whisperers. It really is. Like, I mean, just the comments that have been coming in and the gravity of what you've been sharing, the amount of effort, as you say, by so many people, keeping, like, just that one species alone that's been there since the 70s. And it's, as someone said, it's been waiting for its place, its moment. It's incredibly heartwarming, and for everyone watching, I can feel the energy that this is. You know, we see consistently in the news, there's money going to another stadium here, or the upgrade of this and sport there, and this funding and that funding. But to see money put into a structure for plants, people are really appreciating this, and this is just a small number of people that are on this and in this space tonight. Like, how exciting when it goes live.
Yeah, I think we're going to be overwhelmed with visitors.
It's
Can't
definitely you know, it's wonderful. I did. There's lots of questions. There's lots of questions sitting here. I just wanted to ask you one before you know, we bring Helen back in and go from there. But you know, I'm sure you don't play favourites with any of your plants, and but that's still no reason for me not to ask this question. Is there a plant that you're really looking forward to giving some time on the stage, you know, for a display season or few years, or anything?
Oh, look, yeah, as you say, I don't play favourites. It's kind of like asking a parent who their favourite child is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And my favourite changes almost on a daily basis. I do like the Kakadu plants. I don't know why I have this thing for the plants from Kakadu. Maybe I feel sorry for them being so far from home here in cold Canberra. But particularly the Kakadu gardenia, it's not the most attractive plant. It loses its leaves in the dry season, so over our winter. But the fragrance of the flowers is just amazing. And I think even if we can just have one flower flowering in the conservatory, I'm sure it will just permeate the whole building. You won't be able to find the plant, but
That's fantastic. And you know, particularly as Giovanni said here, a lot of people might like to go for the warmth in winter.
Absolutely. I've got one of the best jobs in Canberra.
Like having that sort of a fixed set temperature, and that's your duty, your obligation and duty to keep it at that point. Well, what do you reckon? Actually, I heard something about a squishy volunteer program. What's that all about?
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. So, well, of course, you know, plants and pests go together. You can't have plants without pests. So we actually have an integrated pest management program. So we try and use the least toxic control methods available. So firstly, you've got to keep your plants healthy and give them the right environment. That's the most important thing. Healthy plants are, you know, less liable to be attacked by pests. But then we'll also do a bit of manual pest removal, and that's where our squishy volunteers come in. We've trained up some volunteers in pest identification and they come in and squash pests for us. It's fantastic.
That's a gig.
Yeah, it's great. And they are amazing people.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's a great way to just build that community connection to the gardens even further. Now, what do you reckon? As I was saying to everyone listening, I was calling it the H team, Helen and Heather. Here we go, and look at that. They're both operating out of the same space. Actually, young Spencer, who's up on the Sunshine Coast, he just asked, what are the pests? What are some of the pests you've got to deal with?
Oh, well, we've got aphids. We have mealybugs. We have scale. We have thrips. We have mites. We have, the list goes on. But yeah, mealybugs and thrips are my nemesis.
Yeah, fair enough. I got one question here for both of you to have a crack at. It's pretty simple, but I think everyone's going to love to hear your answers. How much do you love your jobs?
My job's fabulous. So I get to talk to students and the public and tell them the exciting stories about plants. And there's always something new for me to learn and for me to share. So I love my job.
Yeah, and I get to hang out in 28 degrees in Canberra winter, so with really cool horticulturists.
And like just a bit of a follow-up to that, like how did everyone feel when, well, first of all, this was proposed and then it went through the process and then it got the green light? Like what, explain a bit about the energy that must have gone through the place.
I might start here on this one. So it's always been something that the Gardens has wanted, and even in the very earliest plans, there was an idea that somewhere on the site we'd have a conservatory that would allow us to show tropical plants. I'm not sure how many people have been to the Gardens, but we have an amazing rainforest gully that has been completely created. So Canberra does not have rainforests. It was created out of a dry sort of gully with eucalypts, and when we started that process, people thought we were mad. There were people writing into the paper saying, what are they doing? And 50 years later, we have a spectacular rainforest that goes through cool, temperate rainforest from Tasmania right up to some of the Queensland plants that we can grow. And so, yeah, they thought that maybe we'd put the conservatory at the top, there to finish off that story. And so finally we get to do it. So from the very idea 50 years ago to now, it's been a big time and a big grow.
Yeah, I mean, 50 years. Like, when you think about the conundrum we're in these days where, decisions are made on a 1.5 year cycle, literally, that, politically someone gets in and they're in for a 1.5 years and then they're suddenly planning the next 1.5 years to get re-elected. And here you have something that's been birthed over 50 years. That moment when some of those plants get put up on the stage, that will be really, really special. And in terms of a draw card, what a great way for you, Helen, to just have this constant opportunity to be drawing people back in. Hey, come spring, we're planting, or we're showcasing this family, or we're showcasing that, of course, alongside the fixtures. But yeah, there's so much for you to sell, let's say.
Absolutely. And I think there's such a joy at the moment for things like Hoyas and those big ferns and indoor plants, and the idea of conservatories themselves, like on a smaller scale. People at the moment just want to learn more about these kinds of plants, and we want to show them the Australian native versions.
There was a question here. Will there be any biological pest controls as well? Are there going to be any animals inside?
Okay, so yeah, there will be biological pest controls. We use a lot of biological pest controls in our greenhouses at the moment. So we use ladybirds, lacewings, parasitic wasps, parasitic wasps, predatory mites. Trying to think what else. Yeah, but look, it's something that we invest a lot in, and our horticulturists are really really into that. We're really enjoying using the biological controls.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I mean, there's been some. You've covered quite a few questions in those last two answers, and people have been really keen to hear about that side of the work being done, given that it is a structure. We'll just go another question or two. It's been a fantastic hour, and it's gone so fast. I can't believe it. Like, what the hell? How is it already 8 o'clock? Where's this question? We're re-roofing. Oops, here we go. How close did you work with the architects when it came to plant display techniques?
Ooh, yeah, okay. Well, look, the architect, I think, initially employed a landscape architect, and they brought concepts to us. So, like, the concepts of the living chandeliers was something that the landscape architect came up with. They also suggested that we would, our initial installation should have plants at least 5 metres high. Just, I suppose that's got to enhance the architecture, and the architecture really is quite amazing, even though it hasn't been built yet. We've had some site visits, and I've been down into those lower spaces, and it's almost cathedral-like. The architecture is quite amazing. So I think they know what they're on about. Yeah, so we've tried to take on their ideas anyway with the displays, but we know the plants that we've got and that we can use, so that's where we've got our input.
I have to say, I love the way that it's melded together. So you have these design concepts like those steel chandeliers that you've made that have flowed through and you've interpreted, and that desire to show some of the behind the scenes too. You know, the shelves that we have, the plants with all the information and how we communicate those through. So it's been exciting working with the architects and them saying, actually, show us your pots, show us what things are grown in, because that's part of the story.
Yeah. So just a little change of gear back to the storytelling to wrap things up with. Can you tell us a little bit about what plant stories you'll have and share for children and families?
Well, I already showed you my beautiful red crabs, which are going through other major plant stories. But one of the other things that I think kids are going to absolutely adore, mainly because of its name, is the idiot fruit. Now, who can mind the idiot fruit, really? So it's actually, do you want to say the scientific name? It's
Idiospermum australiense.
Fabulous. So it's not actually idiot, it is sort of individual to itself, idiospermum. And it's got a seed that's about the size of my fist, and so really large for a seed. And it breaks a lot of the rules that we expect plants to follow. So it doesn't just send up 2 seed leaves, it sends up lots, 6, 7, maybe more. So it's a very bizarre plant and really interesting, more so because scientists thought it was extinct. And then there were a series of deaths on farms of cows. And they were going, what is causing this? And they researched and found this plant, the idiot plant, was quite toxic and had been causing these deaths. They only knew it from fossil records. They didn't think it existed, and suddenly here it is. So it's a great plant, and we're hoping that we'll be able to show that process of germination from this giant fist-sized seed with all of these seed leaves coming out, and it's a great name.
All right, that takes me, on that note, to the question, and you will both be able to validate the answer, the first one to come into the feed. So the question is, what was the name of the plant that has waited more than 50 years to make its appearance on stage? First person to drop it in the drum roll, please. While we're waiting, here's my BGANZ Botanic Gardens Day last Sunday in May t-shirt. There was a call from the crowd to lift my screen so people could see it. Okay, who's first? Can you see the feed? No. Oh, okay. So I didn't say Latin name or sort of common name, but
I think we should give the common name, make it sort of accessible.
Yeah, well, there it is. Death by Plants has come through with King Fern.
Yep.
Well, there it is. Death by Plants. If you can, I'm trying to work out how we did this last time. If you can direct message the BGANZ Facebook page, they will organise for you to get your gift prize from sponsors Seasol. So congratulations. The Angiopteris has brought home the goods for Death by Plants. Big congratulations to you. Thank you. Look, everyone's been getting on there. But Death by Plants was the fastest. Helen, Heather, what a fantastic journey you've taken us on. And I tell you what, the Canberra Tourist Organisation should be giving you a bit of a clip, because there's a lot of people queuing up to come down there at the end of the year to visit. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to be at the front of the queue. I can't wait. Thank you both very much. Thank you everyone for joining us. We've got another fantastic talk again next Thursday night, I should say, which is whereabouts, Beck? I'm just trying to see if I've got that, but if I don't, I'll put it in the. I'll put it. I can't see it, but yeah. Anyway, I'll put the link out early in the week. Thanks so much, everyone. Here we go. Here it is. Thank you, Beck, Rebecca. We'd like to. There's our thanks for. To our wonderful panelists, Helen McHugh and Heather Sweet, and to everyone behind the team behind BGANZ, John Arnott, Eamon Flanagan, Rebecca Harcourt, Helen McHugh, Amalia McLaren Brown, Alison Morgan, and Tim Ubergang. Thank you, team, for putting together another awesome conversation. And we'll see you here same time next week.
Cool.
And there it is, a botanical banquet next week, exploring our plant palette with Karen Sutherland, horticulturist and edible garden specialist at Edible Eden Design down in Victoria, and Jenny Bell, curator of the Ian Potter Foundation Children's Garden down at the Royal Botanic Gardens in Victoria. We shall see you all next week. And to our wonderful speakers, Helen and Heather, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.